So I got a note today that asked, can I divide the iPad screen into 2 or more performance areas? So I thought, well, let's take a look. So we're going to start with a brand new default patch, and that just starts with a single oscillator. Okay. And my goal here is, let's maybe have this oscillator, oscillator A, on the left-hand side here, and oscillator B on the right-hand side. Now right now they, of course, use the whole screen. So how could we do this? Well, let's try this out. We'll pop open oscillator A, and let's add a amplitude control. Tap and hold, pull up the menu, and add an amplitude parameter to the oscillator. And now I want moving left and right to change the amplitude of that oscillator. So I'm going to choose the controller here to be the touch position Y position. Now remember that the Y position is always the long position on the iPad. It can get kind of confusing if you move the iPad around in orientation, but in TC11, Y is always the long and X is always the short axis. So if you listen, you should hear that the amplitude moves from 0 to 100% as we traverse the Y axis. Okay, and so let's do this again for oscillator B. Okay, we have a different oscillator, and let's again add the amplitude parameter. And let's again set it to the Y position. Okay, but this time, let's invert it. So I'm going to take the high and low and reverse them so that the incoming controller, instead of being left is quiet, now left is loud. And I bet you can see where this is going. I'm actually building a crossfade. Okay, but that's not what I want. I want to just hear oscillator A on one side and just hear oscillator B on the other side. So we're going to use a new object in TC11 2.0, which is the table. And what the table does is it can take a continuous controller and break it into discrete pieces. Now I can decide how many pieces I'm going to break that value into, and I just want to break it into 2. We could break it into, say, 6 here, and if you watch, we'll set some values. And right now the index is using the Y position, and you can see how I'm going to step through the position on the table, but the actual incoming controller is still a continuous value. So you can see how I'm sliding through the table. Okay, so this is a way to break up a controller into discrete values. Let's set that to just 2 values. And what I'm going to have them be is all the way down and all the way up. So that if I'm on the left-hand side of the screen, it's going to be 0, and if I'm on the right-hand side, it's going to be 100%. Okay? So now that I have that, let's head back up to the oscillators. And let's just focus on oscillator A here for a minute. Let's take the amplitude and let's replace the Y position controller with the table. Okay, which one do we choose? Table 1, big dot, or table 1 with the 3 little dots? Well, the big dot table 1, that's going to be for a single table value for all of the touches. And so that's not what I want. I want each individual touch to get its own table value, which is why we choose table 1 with the 3 dots, the individual touch table. Okay, and so we've got that going. And now what I hope would happen here is that on the left-hand side of the screen it's 0, and on the right-hand side it's 100%. 0, 100%. And let's do the same thing now with oscillator B. Okay, replace the Y position controller with our voiced table. And we've effectively split the screen. Now, that's great, but I can't actually see where that happens. So let's head over to the patch one more time, and let's go back down to the table. These little arrows here will jump to whatever controller or module you have active, and so I'm going to hit that and slide right to the table. And let's use a feature of the table to set my grid here. Now I could go into patch options and I could say let's get a custom Y grid, but I already know what I want to have happen. I want to break it into 2 pieces, so I'm going to use a menu in the table to set the Y grid. Let's watch that happen. There we go. And so that sets the Y grid, and now I've got the screen split into 2 positions. So that was done for those oscillators and the amplitude parameter, but you could do that for any one of the parameters in TC11. So splitting the screen into discrete pieces using the table.